Now this is part 2 of the best practice sharing about using about simplicity of mathematics into teaching and learning of geography. Now the second common denominator that I use for my geography for designing my geography lesson is the big process. So earlier on was the big concept and now it's the big process. Now what do I mean by the big process? As you can see earlier on, when I was talking about how space and a specific space and a specific locations will mean that there is a unique climate over there, and hence the natural vegetation will behave in a certain manner to adapt to the climate. So if you can look at it and you can simplify this equation further, you can see that there is this idea of a start and an end relationship. That because of this location, that's why the natural vegetation behave in this manner. So it is something like a cause and effect relationship. So with this common denominator, I learned to simplify teaching and learning further. Now it is something like your mathematics equation in trigonometry of A math. Now in trigo you learn that you have to prove the left is equal to right. Because of this, this will happen. Because of this, you can actually get this. So it is something like a cause and effect and a start and end relationship. And in fact, in most of the geography, in fact in 90%, I can simply say in 90% of the curriculum, in 90% of the questions asked in exams, they all can be simplified into a start and end relationship. Now this is a sample content of the geography textbook. In chapter 4, the textbook talks about uses of forests. Now so uses of forests can be defined in this big process, in this common denominator known as a big process, because of a particular part of the tree. And there is a particular advantage that is contributed to the environment. So that is what a uses of forest is about. And in exams, they will often ask this question: describe how forest, which is the start, helps to maintain the quantity and the quality of soil and water as the ending point. So how do you get the answer? For instance, if I'm going to say forest and quantity of soil, how does forest help to maintain quantity of soil? The starting point is the forest, the ending point is the quantity of soil being maintained. So the first thing is forest. Going down, which part of the forest? So you will be thinking about, hey, which part of the tree actually helps to maintain the root, maintain the soil? And that the answer is the roots. So the roots, sorry, let's see where's the cursor. The roots over here will help to anchor the soil firmly together, and it will reduce soil erosion, and hence the quantity of the soil is maintained. First stop. The students will get 1 mark. An example, if they need to talk about the quality of the soil, and the students will have to start thinking which part of the tree in the forest will actually help to maintain the quality of the soil. Immediately, the next thing they will know is the leaves of the forest. So when the trees shed the leaves will form a leaf litter. The decomposition of the leaf litter will actually cause the formation of the humus layer on top of the soil. And this humus layers act as a so-called a natural fertilizer for the tree, and hence it actually maintains the quality of the soil. So this is an example of how the start and end works. And yes, it appears in every single part of the geography textbook. It appears in every single, probably 90% of the geography questions in exams. So this is something like a trigo question as well. It's to prove how forests prove this that will lead to this. This is another part of the textbook which is on chapter 5 on the forest management strategy. How this forest strategy can help to reduce deforestation. How this starts, the forest starting point, can help to reduce deforestation. So this question is an essay question. It says, with reference to a case study you have learned, evaluate the effectiveness of forest management strategies in reducing forest fire. 8 marks. So forest fire is the ending point. Starting point is the forest management strategy, which is all four of these options. So to answer this 8-mark question, actually the students need to choose two strategies. So now that they know there's a particular ending point to reduce forest fire, and they need to choose two of the starting points, which is over here, that will lead to this ending point. Can they just randomly choose any of the two? No, they cannot, because there is a specific ending point. It's just like a 100-meter race. If you're running a 100-meter race, what is the kind of things that you will need to do? You won't choose to swim the 100-meter race when it is actually on the track. You won't crawl the 100-meter race when it is a race. So that specific ending will helps you to determine which are the two specific starting point that you can use. Now, can you use selective? So if you never do a start and end in this question, you will realize that there will be an issue. The student might just randomly pick any two. For instance, if they pick selective cutting is actually to cut down specific species of trees. Instead of cutting all trees, they just cut down specific species of trees to use the timber to make into certain furnitures and houses and whatsoever. So in this context, does it has anything to do with the ending point to reduce forest fire? Why do people burn the forest? People burn forest because they want the land. Now if you use selective cutting, the intention is not to get the land, the intention is to get the timber. So this starting point has no relationship to this ending point. So you cannot use this. And the most obvious way, the most obvious starting point will be conservation, which is to entirely give this patch of forest a conserved status, so that nobody can do anything to the forest, just like the Bukit Timah Nature Reserve. And of course, another way, so you can't even burn it. Therefore, this option number 3 is related to the ending point. Now, the other one is to prevent and reduce forest fire by educating the people on the disadvantages, the pollution involved in burning of forests to clear the forest. So this is another example that you can use, another option you can use. So, yep. Now, the students' mid-year exam actually has this particular question on natural vegetation. It is a question on describe and account for the relationship between the percentage of forest and the population growth in Thailand. So let's ignore the account for first. Describe the relationship between the percentage of forest and the population growth in Thailand. So let's see. As the population grows in Thailand, you will realize that the percentage of the forest is dropping. So that is the description of the relationship. I say again, as the population grows in Thailand, the percentage of the forest decreases in Thailand. Now, once we have gotten the relationship, it is time to account for the relationship. Now, this question, how do we do a start and end? You will realize that the relationship is the ending point. The relationship is the ending point. So the starting point, what is the starting point that leads to this relationship at the ending point? So what is it that causes forests to decrease as population increase? What is it that causes the forest to decrease as population increase? So the students will actually be writing down things like, oh, as the population increase, there's a need for land because more land is needed to build settlements for the people to live in. So more forests are being cleared for the land needed for the expansion of settlement, and therefore the ending point is being reached. Also, they can mention that because there is more people now, they will need to they will probably demand for more resources, more timber, because more people means they need more resources, and more trees have to be cut down such that the timber can be used to grow, to build houses, to to build furnitures, etc. So you realize that this question has a start and end as well. And well, if you look at this other question, so over here there's one question, there's another question here, there's another question here. These are three different questions from human geography. And yes, because I mentioned to you that the big process is common denominator, even in this topic of human geography, which is called the geography of food, the start and end can be used here as well. For the first question, using example, explain how government and international organizations help to reduce starvation and malnutrition. So where is the start? Government and international organizations are the starting point. The ending point will be reduce problems of starvation and malnutrition. Can you see that? So there is a start and there's an ending point. Students will definitely go, and this is just like what I mentioned earlier on, a 100-meter race. Students will definitely have to complete this 100-meter race because they know where is the starting point, which is the 0 meter, and they know where is the 100-meter, which is the ending point in this question. They will not overwrite, they will not write too much in the answers, they will not go beyond the 100-meter, they will not just run 50-meter because they know where is the ending point. The next question is, scientists claim that GM, genetically modified fish, can reduce the problem of starvation in many less developed countries and prevent wild fishes from becoming extinct. Discuss this sentence. That means the starting point is genetically modified fish. The ending point is it can reduce starvation, it can prevent wild fishes from becoming extinct. Discuss this sentence. The next question is an essay question. So, evaluate the effectiveness of technological advancement during the Green Revolution in addressing global hunger issue and reducing income gap. This is the starting point, technological advancement, and here is the ending point. Now, what is the beauty of this start and end? The beauty is this. Now, imagine the starting point is you are behind this wall, you are actually over this side of the wall, and the ending point is the opposite of the wall. The amazing thing is, once you have the start and you have the end, you realize that the in-between, the method you use to go to the ending point can be anything. You can either climb over the wall like this guy, you can dig under the wall, or if this wall is just 1 meter wide, you can just walk around the wall. Why am I giving this analogy? Because when my students were writing their essays, they were writing their answers in geography exam, I realized those students who are able to appreciate the beauty of start and end, they can actually use knowledge that I've not even taught before to use as the in-between between the start and end. So textbook shows you a certain start and end, but when because the students learn from other subjects, they can actually use other in-between to reach the ending point, and they will still be given the correct mark. That is the beauty of the start and end. So as I mentioned earlier, 90% of the content can be studied using start and end in geography. 90% of the questions can be answered using the start and end relationship as well. And very importantly, you realize that you can teach them in this start and end method, and they will actually learn and answer using start and end, just like this slide. If you teach them using a certain method, using this common process, this big process, and they study using this process, and they also answer questions in this process, this loop actually will form a habit. And when you have that habit, you will realize when the students go into the exam venue, they will not panic at all because it is a habit. They will naturally know what to do. Alright? You will realize all my notes, I actually rewrote the entire textbook in notes that are presented in a start and end format. And that's so that when I teach them, they know what is start and end. But they realize that the textbook is not in a start and end. So when they study, they can study my notes in the form of start and end. When they answer their questions, they will plan in terms of start and end and write in terms of start and end. And when the habit is formed, wow, I tell you, it works wonders. Now, what is the common denominator then? It is transferable to other subjects. It is transferable within one topic of a particular subject, and it is timeless. The idea of a start and end is timeless. And here is an example. Pearline was my student from 4E2 in 2012. She actually texted me on Facebook. She mentioned that, teacher, I am using the start and end for econs. Start and ends never die. And when I heard this, when I saw this message, I'm really grateful that that one more student has understood the essence of a start and end, of a common denominator. However, I just want to emphasize that a common denominator isn't a panacea to teaching and learning, because you understand that there are things like motivation, and there are other things like students are unable to organize their thoughts. Now, this slide is something that I want to share with you, because when I use the title from a mathematics teacher to from a mathematics student to a geography teacher, it's actually just to entice people to come to my sharing. But actually, what I'm trying to tell you is there are things that are happening in our everyday life that we can use and adapt it into our teaching and learning. Now, this is the other thing that I would like to mention, but it will take probably another half an hour. It is basically incorporating the simplicity of computer data management in geography, in the teaching of geography. Now, you realize that when you have a lot of folders, when you have a lot of files in your computer, you will want to actually use a folders method to organize your file. Now, for my students, when they see a particular question, for instance, I will actually help them to organize the entire textbook into a files and folders method. For instance, if it's a natural vegetation, there will be a folder. Then after that, when you click the folder natural vegetation, there will be 3 more folders. The first folder will be known as adaptation folders. The second folder will be known as a users of forest folder. The third folder will be known as a case study folder. And when I click on the folder again, what are the subfolders, sub-subfolders, and what is finally the document? When they click open, how will it look like? Now, why do I have to do this files and folders approach? Now, when the students see a particular question during the exam, there is a tendency for them to just randomly pick answers from anywhere, because they don't have an organization of the information that they have learned. So if they see a question, what I get them to do is you open that particular folder. When it opens, voila, you will see all the points that are needed to be placed in the start and end, and hence they will know what are the points to write down. Anyway, this is not the key idea to this presentation. Now, as Steve Jobs has mentioned, simplicity is important, and over here the quote says that that's been one of my mantras: focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. What does it mean? You have to work hard to get your thinking clean and to make it simple, but it's worth it in the end, because once you get there, you can move mountains. And I can tell you, when I design my lesson now, and when I design my lesson during then, it wasn't easy to find that big idea. But after I get it, I realized that it really helps me to reduce the need to plan my lesson, because every day I just walk into the class, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the start and end, and I'm going to use the idea of location. And the students will also know what to expect every single lesson. Is there a need for planning? Yes, some other small little things, but not the whole idea of a lesson design. My lesson doesn't need design anymore, because it is already based on the common denominators. So I conclude here. Lesson design for Teach Less, Learn More. It is actually equals to a design for simplicity. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation. Goodbye.